If y'all are new to my channel by now, a lot of times I will use pictures to depict how I feel that the person in the subject matter that I'm referring to in the story that I'm about to discuss probably looks when they get certain news. And this person right here, I assume that their face looks just like this. If y'all are unaware who this is Rick the Snake Snyder. I call him the Snake for a reason. And, Rick Snyder, he used to be the governor of Michigan. And it was under his rulership, his governorship, where Flint, Michigan had that extreme water crisis. It was a major story. It pretty much made international news. And as far as I know, I still believe that they are still kind of going through it. I don't know what the recovery rate is now, but at the time, like around 2013 in that space, it was bad. It was horrible. And this guy literally let that happen on his watch and didn't do anything about it. And what I thought was very egregious was that all the people around him, like as far as his board and everything, a lot of them got disciplinary action. But he walked away from this completely unscathed. Well, I'm here to tell you that he's going to walk away unscathed again. And this time he's going to walk for good, because nothing is going to happen to him, but no one is even remotely surprised by it, because a judge pretty much ordered to dismiss all charges of his involvement with that. Like, this guy actually tried to sit up there as the governor of Michigan at the time and try to claim that he didn't know what was going on. I'm like, you're the governor of an entire state. How is it that you don't know what's going on in your own state? If you didn't feel like you could be qualified to understand that, then you should not have been the governor. But then again, he was most likely doing this for the money, like most of them are anyway. That's why I call them politicians for a reason. He falls into that category as well. A Genesee County Circuit Court judge has ordered the dismissal of charges against former Governor Rick the Snake Snyder related to the Flint water crisis, but Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel's Flint legal team vowed to appeal. Good. I don't know what good it'll do, but at least they are fighting back and just not letting it, excuse me, just laying down and rolling over and accepting it. Judge F.K. Bem on Wednesday ruled that a June Michigan Supreme Court ruling was controlling on Snyder's case when the High Court declared unconstitutional the use of a one-judge grand jury to charge the Flint defendants. Snyder was charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of willful neglect of duty in January 2021 by one judge grand jury, along with 8 other city and state officials in relation to the Flint water crisis investigation by Nessel's office. Now, peep that. He was only hit with 2 misdemeanor counts, not felony, misdemeanor. So that means even if this was to go forward, and he got hit with those charges and the charges actually stuck, it wouldn't have really meant much anyway, because misdemeanor means almost nothing. It means almost nothing. Something that should have been felonious, it was a slap on the wrist waiting to happen regardless. So technically, he was going to be good either way. Crazy. Snyder's lawyer, Brian Lennon, hailed Bem's decision in a Friday statement and criticized the Attorney General's political persecution veiled in amateurish and unethical prosecutorial efforts. The state has already wasted millions of taxpayers' dollars pursuing meritless misdemeanor charges, and this case should now be considered closed, Lennon said. The prosecution team's statement saying it will appeal this ruling is further proof that they intend to continue their efforts to weaponize the court system against their political enemies. Now, that's his attorney talking. He feels, whenever you have an attorney, of course, they're going to do and say whatever it is that's in the best interest of their client, even if they know that their client is guilty as sin. Because this guy is guilty as hell for the role he played in this. If everyone else around him can get taken down and he's still standing, that's saying a lot. This guy literally walked away from this. That's why we're saying what's going on in Jackson we have the biggest feeling that the same thing is going to happen there as well. We hope not, but that's also the same state where they allowed Brett Favre to take off and run off like a bandit briefly with the money for welfare recipients, him, Phil Bryant, Nancy New, and all the others up there who was mismanaging funds that wasn't meant for them. So, like I said, corruption all over the place. Through July, the state has spent nearly $53 million since 2016 for both the prosecution and defense of Michigan's top officials in the Flint water criminal and civil litigation, according to records obtained and reviewed by the Detroit News. The legal tab spanned 4 departments and at least 25 state employees. The Flint water prosecution team said in a statement Friday that BIM's decision is not surprising and the team looks forward to addressing these issues in court. We are confident that the evidence clearly supports the criminal charges against Rick Snyder, and we will not stop until we have exhausted all possible legal options to secure justice for the people of Flint. The Flint prosecution team is led by Chief Deputy Fadwa Hammond, formerly Nestle's Solicitor General, and Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy. Many of the dismissed charges in the Flint water prosecutions led by Hammond and Worthy could be difficult to reauthorize if the team is unsuccessful on appeal. The team is running up against the state of limitations, which is, in many cases, limits charges to a 6-year window after an alleged crime is committed. Many of the charges authorized by Hammond and Worthy relate either to the April 2014 water source change, in which the city switched from the Detroit area water system Lake Huron water to Flint River water, spurring the lead-tainted water crisis, or subsequent action or inaction among public officials in the few years after the water change. One thing I wish they could have had, and I don't know if they had it at all, is that they had like some kind of concrete evidence of Rick the Snake Snyder signing off on them switching that water over. If they had that, then that would have been perfect. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't, but I never really read anything that said that they did. So now if that's the case, then all they're going to say it was just speculation. And that's why he can lean on saying, oh, I didn't know about this. I didn't know it happened. But that's still a bunch of BS as well. Because again, as governor, you should be aware of the stuff that's going on in your state, whether something happened right under your nose or behind your back. Bim, who was about to move to the federal bench, wrote in her Wednesday opinion that the Supreme Court decision on the 1-judge grand jury requires dismissal of appellant's charges and remanded the case to district court for dismissal. Snyder's lawyers had argued that the former governor charges should be dismissed because Michigan law requires an indictment to be issued in the county where an alleged crime is committed. The allegations underline the charges against Snyder that he failed to declare a timely state of emergency or disaster in Flint, and that he failed to inquire into the performance, condition, and administration of officers he appointed, would have stemmed from the seat of government in Lansing, making Ingham County the only proper venue for the charges, his lawyers argued. Snyder declared a state of emergency in January 2016. Bim declined to rule on the venue questions since the Supreme Court's rejection of the 1-judge grand jury overrode any question of venue. The dismissal of Snyder's charges came after Genesee County Circuit Judge Elizabeth Kelly in October dismissed felony charges against 7 other state officials based on the Supreme Court opinion. Snyder's charges were on a different timeline because his were misdemeanor charges were filed in district court and the other defendants faced felony charges in circuit court. Now look at that. That's what I was telling you about. The others around him got the bulk of the charges, and the ones around him were the ones that fell. The ones around him got felony charges, and he got misdemeanor. Had it been up to me, all of them, including him, would have got felony charges. But they made sure to give him the ultimate protection. What does the hashtag say that I came up with? Operation Protect the White Boy? In full effect. The Michigan Supreme Court ruled 6-0 in June that charges against former Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Director Nick Lyon should be dismissed because Nestle's office used a 1-judge grand jury to indict him. The court said the 1-judge grand jury law allows judges to issue investigative subpoenas or arrest warrants, but it does not permit judges to issue indictments. In the Supreme Court's opinion, then Chief Justice Bridget McCormick referred to the Attorney General's office use of a one-judge grand jury as a Star Chamber comeback, a reference to a centuries-old secretive court abused by high-ranking officials in the Middle Ages. The one-man grand jury then issued charges, McCormick wrote. To this day, the defendants do not know what evidence the prosecution presented to convince the grand jury, i.e. juror, to charge them. The Supreme Court said Genesee County Circuit Court erred in refusing to dismiss Lyon's case and remanded the case back to the Circuit Court for proceedings consistent with this opinion. While the decision was specific to Lyon, the reasoning was extended to the 6 other Circuit Court defendants and now Snyder, the Snake, who were also charged under the one-judge grand jury system. The U.S. Senate on Tuesday voted 49-47 to confirm Bem to serve on the federal bench in Michigan's Eastern District. Like I said, corruption all over the place with this. But and I'm sure everyone who is listening to the sound of my voice right now and are familiar with the story and not surprised that they are letting this guy pretty much walk away from doing all of this. Yet Kwame Kilpatrick, do I need to finish my statement? Granted, he allowed himself to get caught up in the moment, and that's why he's in the position he's in, but still. All these other ones, like the one you see on your screen, can walk away untouched, unscathed, invincible, and that is exactly why they continue to do the things that they do, because they are never held accountable for the actions in which they take, especially against their citizens. And we all know why. Mainly the people that were affected by what happened in Flint were black. Just like in Jackson, most of the people that were affected by it or are affected by it still are black. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. It's messed up at the end of the day, but it's not surprising at the same time. And y'all got it, excuse me. And it's not surprising that they kept this under wraps either. I'm going to be honest, so much stuff has happened in the world since then. It's crazy how much stuff has happened since this man has been in office and in his position. Since he left. Like, this was going on for years in his state, and he didn't declare a state of emergency until like, what, 3 or 4 years after the fact. The people of Flint were practically begging the governor's office, his office, to come and handle the situation, and he brushed them off. So to say he didn't know about this is crap. He knew. He just wasn't going to deal with it. He was going to let it fester and let it do what it do. And unfortunately, it did what it did, and it's still doing what it's still doing. Meanwhile, he can leave and go do whatever and be good. Like I tell you, these politicians ain't shit.